It was just after 10 p.m. on a quiet Friday night in Albuquerque's South Valley when the first reports came in. Gunfire. Multiple shots. A disturbance on Entrada Bonita Street Southwest. When Bernalillo County Sheriff's deputies arrived, what they found would leave even seasoned investigators struggling to make sense of it. A young man stood in the doorway, calm, armed, and waiting. He told them there were 2 dead men inside. And the reason why he'd killed them was because a cockroach had told him to. You're watching CrimeScope with Sam, and this is the story of Alexis Hernandez, a 25-year-old man from Albuquerque, and the bizarre, tragic double homicide that has stunned New Mexico. At 10:27 p.m., dispatchers sent Bernalillo County Sheriff's deputies to 1421 Entrada Bonita Street Southwest after neighbors reported the unmistakable sound of gunfire. The neighborhood is typically quiet, small homes, dim streetlights, families preparing for bed. But that night, flashes of light and the crack of gunshots shattered the calm. When deputies arrived at the address, the front door opened before they could knock. Standing there was Alexis Hernandez, dressed in dark clothing. On his waistband, a firearm. On his hip, a Marine Corps saber. He greeted the officers with an unsettling composure. According to the criminal complaint, he told them he was Marine, and that there were 2 dead men inside the house. The deputies immediately moved in. Inside, they found a scene that confirmed his words. 2 adult males were lying motionless, both with apparent gunshot wounds. One was in the front area of the house, another lay in an attached apartment. 3 other adults were also inside, shaken but alive. 2 children were found as well, both unharmed, but witnesses to something no child should ever see. The adults were detained for questioning, the children were taken into protective care. Outside, flashing blue and red lights washed over the small home. The quiet block of Entrada Bonita had turned into an active homicide scene. And Alexis Hernandez, the man standing calmly with the gun and saber, was taken into custody. At first, Hernandez seemed almost detached. When deputies handcuffed him, he simply said, "I had to do what I had to do." Those words would be repeated in the hours to come, and they would form the heart of one of the strangest murder confessions investigators had ever recorded. Back at the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, detectives began their interview. Hernandez didn't hesitate to talk. He said he believed the property owner, later identified the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, released Hernandez's identity on November 8, 2025. He was 25 years old, born in Albuquerque. He told deputies he was a U.S. Marine, though authorities couldn't verify that claim. According to reports by ABQ Raw, his place of birth and social security number were missing from his booking sheet, prompting investigators to reach out to federal agencies to confirm whether he had any military background or even legal immigration status. That verification might take time, officials said, especially amid the federal government shutdown then underway. Hernandez's social media accounts and personal records revealed little about his past. Neighbors said he was quiet, polite, but withdrawn. No one could recall any previous incidents involving him. To those who knew him casually, he seemed ordinary, maybe a bit isolated. But in the weeks leading up to the murders, that had changed. According to the criminal complaint, Hernandez told detectives that he'd begun feeling watched. He claimed the property owner had installed cameras in the lights and that he could hear voices mocking him from the walls and ventilation shafts. He said the signs kept escalating. Strange patterns, cryptic noises, coincidences that convinced him the world was closing in. And then, he said, came the cockroach. In the interview transcript, later shared with multiple outlets, Hernandez's explanation remained consistent. He described seeing a cockroach crawl across the floor, and somehow, in that moment, he believed it was transmitting a message. Not spoken words, but what he called an encrypted signal. That signal, he said, told him he had to act. It told him he had to kill. He claimed that because the property owner did not like cockroaches, the insect itself had become a kind of divine messenger, carrying instructions that were meant specifically for him. He told detectives, "I had to do what I had to do." For investigators, it raised immediate questions about Hernandez's mental state. Was he delusional, paranoid, under the influence of drugs, or sleep deprivation? Toxicology results had not yet been released, But what was certain was that Hernandez's beliefs, however irrational, had driven him to pull the trigger. Authorities later confirmed the two victims as Hector Rios, the property owner, and another man locally known as Joris. Both men were described as acquaintances of Hernandez. He had lived on or near the same property. The relationship between the three men appeared strained in the days leading up to the shooting. Hernandez allegedly accused Rios of spying on him, while Rios reportedly told neighbors that his tenant had become erratic and paranoid. On the night of November 7th, that tension exploded into violence. The sheriff's office has not released full biographical details of the victims pending family notification, but community members have described both men as hardworking, friendly, and well-known in the neighborhood. By November 8th, BCSO homicide detectives had fully taken over the case. They spent the weekend interviewing witnesses, processing the home, and collecting digital evidence from phones and surveillance cameras nearby. Deputy investigators confirmed that 2 juveniles had witnessed the killings. The sheriff's office arranged counseling and protective care for them. Meanwhile, detectives were working to verify Hernandez's account, including his claims about military service and his belief that he was being stalked through hidden cameras. No surveillance devices were found in the home's lighting or vents. No evidence supported his claims of being followed. It appeared that Hernandez's perception of being watched existed only in his mind. And yet, every delusion he described had guided his actions that night. Based on the official reports and Hernandez's own statements, here's the timeline as investigators understand it. Friday, November 7th, around 10 p.m., gunfire is heard at 1421 Entrada Bonita Street, SW. 10:27 p.m., Bernallilo County Sheriff's deputies are dispatched to the scene. They arrive to find Alexis Hernandez standing at the front door with a gun and a Marine saber. He tells them there are 2 dead men inside. Deputies find the victims, Hector Rios and Joris, both with gunshot wounds. One shows possible stab injuries. 3 adults and 2 young children are located in the house. The adults are detained for questioning. The children are removed safely. Hernandez is arrested on the spot and later charged with 2 open counts of murder in the first degree. In interviews, Hernandez claims he believed he was under surveillance, that he heard voices through the vents, and that a cockroach gave him an encrypted order to kill. He admits to shooting both victims, first in self-defense, then again after reloading his weapon. He tells investigators he did not want to harm the children. As of this recording, he remains in custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Albuquerque, awaiting his next court appearance. In the South Valley, residents are still reeling. The neighborhood where the killings occurred is a close-knit pocket of Albuquerque, where families have lived side by side for years and where gun violence of this kind is rare. Neighbors told local reporters they heard multiple gunshots that night, a burst, a pause, and then more. One resident said, "It didn't sound like fireworks. It was too close, too sharp. We knew it was bad." By November 8th, police tape surrounded the small home. Detectives moved in and out while families down the block stood silently watching. Some people expressed sympathy for the victims. Others wondered what had happened to the suspect's mind. One man said, "If he really thought a bug was talking to him, that's not just evil. That's sickness." Still, for the families of Hector Rios and Joris, there's no rational explanation that can ease the pain. Even as the facts line up, the questions remain haunting. Was Alexis Hernandez mentally ill? Did he suffer from untreated paranoia or psychosis? Was he under the influence of drugs at the time of the murder? As of today, Alexis Hernandez, 25, remains in custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Albuquerque, charged with 2 open counts of murder. He has told investigators that he was acting under orders he believed came from an encrypted message sent by a cockroach. The Bernallilo County Sheriff's Office continues to investigate. The identities of the victims, Hector Rios and Jorge Malani, have been confirmed, and their families have been notified. The children who witnessed the tragedy are safe and receiving support. It's a case that defies logic, a story that sits somewhere between delusion and horror. And for the community of Albuquerque, it's a reminder that sometimes the most frightening monsters aren't found in the dark, but in the mind. If this case gripped you, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more investigations right here on CrimeScope with Sam. Because every crime leaves questions, and every question deserves to be followed to the end.